July the 9th, 2019. Guys, a couple of things I want to talk about in this video. One is, don't mean to do so many in a row, but conditions are rapidly changing along the Gulf Coast because the storm has entered into the water now. First, I want to point out a couple things. Here, we have heat advisories. All of this orange area from Texas up through Oklahoma, covering Arkansas and further north, Louisiana, Mississippi, into Alabama. So what we're dealing with is a storm that's about to come ashore in very warm conditions, a lot of moisture. As I'm looking at my weather station now at 4:09 p.m. Central, it's 100 degrees outside. It just went down from 101. The temperature is 111 as far as the real feel. All the conditions that a storm needs to not only have high winds, but an extreme amount of moisture. Now, let me say this for over in Arizona and Southern California. Your excessive heat warnings here. Now, you've got special marine warnings that are popping up now, actually onshore and offshore. In the Pensacola area, Mobile area, we're going to look at that radar, and this is really the top half of this rotation, and it's just going to get worse, and this is really why I'm doing the video, this section right there, guys. Let's look at some things. Now, I'm going to go through a few different radars just to kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with, and I think we're going to have high winds, we're going to have some bad weather, but we're going to have some major flooding, guys. And I'm talking to you folks in Louisiana as much as anybody. But you can see where the storms are now forming along the edge of the coast itself. You've got Pensacola in this area, Mobile Bay here. I've got dozens and dozens of friends through this entire area. Check out Alabama, guys. It's starting to pull in actually from offshore into Georgia and South Carolina and further north. This is a very powerful low pressure system, excuse me. You can just tell by the way the entire area is reacting to it. Now, the system hasn't been over water that long, just from the last video, but you can already see, let me pull this down just a little. You got severe thunderstorm warnings and special marine warnings out in the entire area. And the severe thunderstorms are on shore. Mobile Bay, you're under the gun now. My friends in Pensacola, Perdido, it's coming across Pensacola Bay. Perdido, you're just out of the, you're just under the gun right now. It hasn't quite got to you. You can see where I-10 runs along this area. And it's all along here, and it's just going to move. If we move this map to the west, it's just going to start developing from here through Biloxi, Gulfport, and into the New Orleans area. As the storm expands, this area will become wider, and if the storm turns up into Louisiana, it's going to make it that much worse. Now, let's take a quick look at the river stages. You've got the Mississippi River in the bottom section. If you notice this column, it says FS, that's flood stage all the way through, and then the stage at 6 a.m. this morning, the 24-hour expected change, and then the 10th, the 11th, and 12th, and so forth. Down at New Orleans, the current flood stage, this flood stage is 17 feet. The current stage is 16. By the 11th, it's expected to be 18 feet. That's a foot above flood stage, and we've seen a lot of protection of New Orleans from letting that levee out there, and it's put a lot of fresh water into the Gulf of Mexico it didn't need. It also, guys, if you're from the New Orleans area, tremendous amount of alligators are pouring into that area because so many fish are coming through that levee. Dozens and dozens of alligators can now be seen in this large group. You look above that reserve, Donaldsville, Baton Rouge, Red River Landing, and Natchez, guys. We're talking about what's going to affect the Chapala Basin. Example, at the Red River Landings, flood stage is 48 feet. It is 59.7. And you look going through, it's not expected to drop that much. 59.6, 59.6, 59.4, going all the way up into the 14th. Now, so whatever stacks on top of this, above what they kind of expected for 48 hours, is just going to put more pressure on the lower river. Now, it's going to be either 4 or 8 p.m. before we have new updates, depending on how severe a situation is. Normally, it would be 8 p.m., but I think they may update it. But you can see that this center of rotation has started to move out of the Appalachia Bay from the 2 p.m. report and is starting to move west. It's off the tip right here, Big Bend. You also can see the clouds popping up very fast along the coastline, and it's all moving west. And as we go through these radars, guys, start to notice how the entire area is starting to move with the system. It's a good thing it's not going to go over the water and stay out longer. This thing would be incredibly strong. It has all the indicators of that. It would be good for it to come back ashore as soon as possible. Now, I want to go through a couple different water vapor loop, and these have to do with the level of the upper level, lower level, mid levels. And you're looking at the upper level water vapor loop now, and you can see, guys, check the entire top section. So it's not just going to be coastal regions that are affected. This is going up between Birmingham and Atlanta now as it moves across. More moisture is being pulled in, as you can see here, over South Carolina coming into Georgia. It's all of this, again, is moving west, and it's going to end up pulling all of this moisture into it if it continues to strengthen in rotation. Now, the lower level water vapor is showing the same thing. They're looking at different levels using infrared radar. Same thing, water vapor building up along this upper edge of the low pressure system and creating weather all through here. Guys, it has the classic, again, signature of a tropical storm. The saving grace is here is that it will not stay over water if it stays on the predicted path long enough to become a very strong storm. But the flooding could be as devastating as any hurricane you've ever seen if this setup continues to progress in what we're seeing now. And if you look at the entire nation, you can see the difference in this storm and the heat that's related to it. You can see all the energy that's coming in up into Canada. You can see it up in the northeast right here. This is what we're dealing with. You can see Texas right on your very borders here. You've got storms. But again, this is going to be the problem right here, guys. Guys, just kind of a final look at this area just to emphasize what I'm talking about. One of the comments in the last video was talking about sections of the highway there in Louisiana is still blocked with those high 5-foot barrier walls and stuff, and mentioned the flood of 2016. Remember that? The local sheriff was trying to get those barriers out of the highway because it was actually creating a dam and flooding behind it. Same time, Trump flew down there as he was running for president. Remember, he flew into Baton Rouge on his plane, and they delivered supplies to you guys there. Could be the very same scenario. And the 2016 flood was a 1,000-year flood. So just, guys, we saw apartments underwater. We saw people in boats trying to get folks out. Again, flooding everywhere. And we're looking at the same setup. Guys, look for some shorter videos coming up. It may be just some radar in there so I can get some quick 1-minute, 60-second updates like that. And then later tonight, after the National Hurricane Center comes in with their update, may do another full video. But just, again, watch for some radar updates throughout the afternoon. It'll make it quick and simple. So heads up. Be safe.